Well, I thought I'd do something a little bit more reviewy kind of style today. So today I'm just reviewing Jago and Litefoot Series 11. Those of you who know me can guess why, out of all of the Jago and Lightfoots when they went on sale, I decided to purchase this one. I wonder why. I wonder why. Silky smooth, Jeffrey. Anyway, let's get on to reviewing each story, and let me tell you why this front cover is kind of a bit of false advertising. But we'll get on to that in a minute. So, the first story in this box set is Jago and Son. So, to give you a bit of a synopsis for this one, basically a young adult claiming to be Jago's son. I know, weird. You couldn't tell that from the title, but anyway. Claiming to be Jago's son and comes in need of supposedly his father's help to help rescue his mother. And yeah, I'm gonna make this as spoiler free as possible, but the whole thing with this one is about a cult wanting to resurrect a devil thing. Yeah, it's one of those. Also, the cover of this one can't, something about it just reminds me if Michael Myers was in Victorian England by this cover. To be honest, it is a nice little introductory story. This is the first Jago and Lightfoot box set that I've ever listened to. So, to be honest, it does give you a nice taster for what's to come. It's enjoyable enough, and I do like the back and forth between Jago and his son, Jago Jr., because they both have the same name, Henry Gordon Jago Jr. He comes off as likable enough and does show a great deal of loyalty to his father, or is he? Despite never knowing him. So, a decent enough introductory story, although it's, apart from the Jago and Son aspect, the cult aspect thing you've heard 1,000 times before. But it's the Jago and Son aspect that really does make the story stand out a bit more, and is the most enjoyable part out of it. The second story is Maurice. And I should mention, in each of these four stories, the Master does appear briefly in them to varying degrees. This one he appears a bit more than he did in the last, and it's basically offering trinkets on what his overall plan is, which I will reveal later, but let's just say the plan is not a new one. But yeah, Maurice is about some clockworkish entity thing that can basically perfectly copy a human being in both their mannerisms, speech patterns, etc., etc. And I couldn't help thinking it sounded a lot like the Clockwork Droid. But I don't really know, to be honest, about this one. This one felt like it just didn't have much to do with anything in terms of the overall story in this. I mean, the Master does show up briefly in this one. Again, he shows up in every story, but this one kind of just feels a bit like filler, because not an awful lot happens in this one, to be honest, in terms of interest. It feels like the first part of a story rather than, a full story by itself, because then it's just kind of over by the end of it. Also, these covers are interesting for the individual CDs, but they are pretty basic, to be honest. The Woman in White. Yeah. Is it based on that book we all know? Don't know, because I haven't read it. But yeah, The Woman in White is basically about a ghost, or supposed ghost, that's being appearing at a theatre. And if you see this ghost, then you will start to become acting a bit weird and start to forget things and just act all strange like. This one, to be honest, was the best so far out of them, because, to be honest, I do quite like a sort of, it's not really your typical ghosty sort of tale, but it is a lot more interesting, particularly with its execution, and it also has a bit of vampiric lore sort of sprinkled in there. I would say with this story as well that the pacing of it is a lot better, and there's a lot more going on in this one. In the previous story, there wasn't really a lot going on, and the things that were going on, which were few, just felt stretched and pulled out far too much, whereas this one has a much better pacing, so it's a lot more enjoyable, and it's never boring, which couldn't really be said for the previous story. And finally, we get to the final story, Masterpiece. Thank you, Amazon. That is a great time to send me a text. But anyway, Masterpiece. I wonder who's in this one. So yeah, the Master's plan, and that is revealed. In fact, it's revealed at the start in the first story, and I'm going to reveal the Master's plan in 3, 2, 1. The Master's plan is to take the Doctor's life force energy and convert it into himself, so he can survive. I know you've never heard that one before, especially coming from this Master. Oh no. Honestly, never heard that one before. And yeah, except this time, rather than basically energy being flown through him by, I don't know, absorption or something, he uses mirrors, but it's a lot like Talons of Wing Chiang. In fact, Jago and Litefoot even say this is a lot like, events in Talons and Wing Chiang, but nevertheless, it is an enjoyable story. Jeffrey Beavers, is fantastic and gets to shine, and I mentioned how much I really enjoyed Christopher and Trevor's performances as Jago and Litefoot. They were really enjoyable throughout, and they make a fantastic double act. Unfortunately, Trevor Axel is no longer with us, so we will never get this great double act again, because essentially Lightfoot is the straight man to Jago, and they do bounce each other off pretty well throughout these box sets. Well, this one anyway, I can't really judge for the others. Now, I wanted to talk about the false advertising on the front, and that's Colin Baker, whose name is in the top credits. Yeah, so Colin Baker doesn't actually appear until this story. However, if you are hoping for some Jago and Lightfoot and Sixth Doctor, action, you're going to be disappointed a lot with this, because, for one, he doesn't show up until over halfway through the final story. Bearing in mind, these are only an hour long in length for each story. But also, for the majority of that time, he is in disguise. And it's really obvious that it's Colin Baker. I guess you could call it a spoiler alert, but as soon as he starts talking with a fake accent, it's pretty obvious it's Colin Baker. Not to say I didn't enjoy his performance, but he only gets to be, the Doctor and reveal himself as the Doctor for about 5 minutes, to be honest. So, yeah, there's not really much of that. I would have preferred, if they were going to have the Doctor in, then have him in properly for a full story. Or if you were going to have him in disguise, then, have him disguised for, I don't know, half of the previous story and then reveal him at the end. And then have a full story with him as Doctor. Because, to be honest, the Sixth Doctor is only here, really, because it's part of the Master's plan. Yeah. If the Sixth Doctor wasn't in this box set, then really the box set would be no different apart from the ending where the Sixth Doctor essentially comes in and fixes everything and stops the Master's plan, and then it's all over. Yeah. Which is a bit of a shame that Jago and Lightfoot, they don't get to defeat the Master. It's the Doctor who gets to defeat, really, the Master in the end. Which is a shame because this box set was proven that Jago and Lightfoot were perfectly capable of doing stuff on their own without the Doctor, but then the final story, the Doctor just swoops in at the end and fixes everything within 5 minutes, which I think really degrades from Jago and Lightfoot. But other than that, I did really enjoy this box set, and I don't know if it's still on sale. It was half price, which is what I picked this up for. I only picked up the digital version because it was only, I think, £14.50 or £15. Whereas the CD, although it was only, I think, £18, you'd have to pay postage on top of that, so I decided to forgo that. But yeah, do recommend this one, and if it's still on sale, I do recommend you pick it up and give it a go.